Revenge films.
My husband is a very strict and domineering man. Whenever I try to talk back to him, he says,
I'm the one who's supporting you financially. I will never allow you to talk back to me!
I was 30 years old when I met my husband, so I wanted to get married fast. I was very desperate to find a husband, so I was impatient at the time. My friends, siblings, and cousins already found their partners. Everyone around me was married except for me. I felt left out and felt pressured to get married. My friends told me to go on a dating app. That is how I met my husband. When Frank and I first met, he didn't show any signs of a domineering person. All I saw was a very kind and gentle man. We went on a few dates before our relationship became official, but he never showed this domineering personality even then. However, on the first day of living together as a married couple, an incident occurred that showed his true colors. I'm a morning person, so I woke up early and I started preparing breakfast. I then ate breakfast after that. Then, when I brought my husband's breakfast to the table, he noticed the plates on the sink, and he realized that I had already eaten breakfast before him. To my surprise, he started shouting,
Jessica? You already had breakfast? You ate before me?
I didn't know what was happening. With a perplexed look, I told him, I'm a morning person and you were still sleeping, so I ate after cooking breakfast. He then gave me a menacing look, and he said with an angry tone,
It's expected that you wake up before me, preparing breakfast for me as well. I don't have any complaints about that. But what I don't like is how you ate before me. Why did you eat before I even touched the food? I'm supposed to eat first, before you can eat.
Hearing those words coming out of his mouth, I was shocked and I was lost for words. My parents usually eat together, but my mother is also an early bird, so there are times when they didn't eat together too. That's why I didn't know what was wrong about eating at separate times. That day, I didn't feel great, but days like that continued to occur throughout our marriage. My husband, of course, is working, but I'm also working too. However, I might not earn as much as my husband does, but I work full-time too, so I earn enough salary to have Social Security. However, it seems like my husband doesn't care about that because he always puts himself first. Like, for example, one day he told me in the morning that he wanted to eat meat for dinner, so I stopped by the grocery store on my way home to buy meat so that I can cook it for dinner. However, when I served him the meat dish that I cooked, he shouted,
I feel like eating fish right now. I can't eat this meat in front of me. Hurry up and cook a fish dish for me.
He scolded me like it was my fault. But Frank, you told me this morning that you wanted to eat meat tonight. So I stopped by the grocery store on my way home from work so that I could cook a meat dish for you. That was your request.
I don't care about what I said in the morning. I feel like eating fish right now. So stop complaining and serve me fish.
How do you expect me to know that feels like eating fish right now when you clearly told me that you wanted meat? I screamed back at him. He then dumped the whole dish into the sink as he marched out the door, closing it with a loud bang. Another problem I have with my husband is that he never admits that he's wrong. One day, while I was chilling in the living room, sitting on the sofa reading a book on my day off, I received a call from my father-in-law asking me when I was going to arrive at the house. I had no idea what he was talking about, so I called my mother-in-law to ask about it. Apparently, my husband told his parents that he and I will visit them for dinner that day. However, I never heard about the dinner, so I told my mother-in-law that I had no idea about it. Then my husband gave me a menacing look and lost his temper and flew into a rage.
I specifically told you about the dinner at my parents' house tonight. You just forgot about it. Don't blame me for the forgetfulness. How dare you blame me? You're the worst!
He replied, to which I responded, I've never heard about the dinner at your parents' house until today. But he never admitted his mistake. My parents-in-law's house is located about an hour and a half away from our house, so we ended up not having dinner with them that day, and we rescheduled the dinner to a different day. However, my husband said to me,
My parents had an unpleasant experience because of you. You are scum! You also blame people for your mistakes. You're not nice at all!
He screamed at me. I've had enough of this hellish life with him. I met a friend who I hadn't seen in a long time, so I told her everything about my nightmare of a married life. She then suggested that I obtain a license to qualify for a better job. I was exhausted with my life with my husband, and I can't go home without any plans after if I decided to get a divorce. But I couldn't deny the truth that my job wasn't enough for me to be able to live alone. That is why I decided to challenge myself. One day, I brought a book home with me after work. My husband asked me what I was doing, so I told him that I was aiming to get a certification, to which he laughed at and said,
There's no way a dull person like you will be able to pass the exam and get certified. Think of your level of intelligence. People like you are suited to be used by people like me.
He said that and laughed at me. I couldn't forgive him for saying that to me, his wife. Even if he thinks that he was just joking, his insensitive words added fuel to my burning desire to be independent. So I continued to act normally when my husband was with me. However, after he went to bed, I started studying in the living room, like my life depended on it. Well, my life did depend on it. Of course, I diligently did the household chores too. My husband is a domineering man, so even though I was exhausted every day for having to do housework after a long day's work in the office, and even though I contributed to the household expenses, he thought that wives should be the ones to do all the housekeeping. That is why once he sits on the sofa to watch TV, he never stands up or does anything else. Even when he needs the remote controller, he calls me to hand it to him. He uses me like a servant, demanding this and that. I felt offended and was fuming inside, but I wanted to show him what I've got, so I studied very hard. After that, I passed the exams, and I finally got a license and became a certified professional. That is why I quit my part-time job, and I looked for a job where I could use my newly acquired license. After an interview with a company, they seemed to like me because they immediately told me the result. They wanted to hire me right there and then. Of course, my income significantly increased. Just as I was thinking about talking to my husband about the divorce, he thankfully brought up the topic. It seems like my husband was in a very bad mood that day, so when I took several minutes more than expected to prepare a bath for him,
Prepare the bath in a way that I can get in there, no matter what time I come home. How many times do I have to tell you so that you will actually remember it?
but I just got home from work too.
So what if you just got home? It's expected that you finish preparing before I come home. How many times do I have to tell you about this? Everything you do is wrong. Is there anything you can do right? I want to get a divorce.
He was so angry that his tone was fuming, so I smiled at him and showed him the divorce papers. I'm so happy to hear that! So you're going to divorce me, right? Alrighty then, fill this out now and don't forget your signature at the bottom, because I will submit this immediately. My husband was not anticipating that, so he was shocked.
What is that?
It's obvious, isn't it? It's a divorce registration paper. My husband pointed at the divorce paper and started shaking, but I was very happy thinking that I am finally able to get a divorce. We have different values, so let's get a divorce. You wanted a divorce too, so I'll tell your parents about this, okay?
Wait, I will forgive you if you apologize to me right now. Hurry up now. Kneel and bow down before me. Show me how sorry you are, and promise me that you will never talk back to me again. If you do all that, I will forgive you.
I don't need you to forgive me because I've always wanted to divorce you.
What? You've got to be kidding me! Stop messing around with my mind! There's no way that someone like you will be able to live alone!
My husband shouted those words at me, so I showed the license that I acquired after all the studying. I also talked to him about my new job, and I told him that I don't have any problem with my new income. I'm sure my husband never expected this to happen because he was so dumbfounded. He had his jaw hanging open while listening to what I was saying. I then packed up all my stuff and immediately reported my parents about the whole situation. Of course, I also told them everything that my husband did to me and also how he wanted to get a divorce too. The new company that hired me is a large corporation, so they prepared an employee residence for me, which is fully furnished, by the way. That is why I was able to move immediately. Everyone at my new workplace was very warm and welcoming. It was a very rewarding workplace. Frank sent me messages stating that he will forgive everything I did if I go back home immediately, so I ignored his messages and I contacted his parents instead. They then went to his house and scolded him. Frank was the one that said that he wanted a divorce, and I also revealed to them that I was being abused because of his domineering behaviors towards me and the abusive language he uses on me. Because of that, his father beat the hell out of him, and he was forced to sign the divorce papers. I am thankful to my parents-in-law for helping me. I then heard rumors about my ex-husband after that. Apparently, Frank got disowned by his parents and he now lives alone at his apartment. What's worse is that his room now reeks of stinky garbage. It's now a dumpster because he never cleans. He lived with his parents before he lived with me, and I did all the household chores when we lived together. Even after the divorce, he still had a temperament of being domineering. So he couldn't bring himself to do the chores. With no one cleaning up after him, his house was soon filled with garbage. One of the neighbors complained about the smell, so he received a warning to get evicted from his apartment. He doesn't wash his clothes in the washing machine, and he doesn't take his dirty laundry clothes out of the laundromat too. So he wears the same clothes every day. Because of that, no one wanted to talk to him at work. His employees couldn't trust him with the customers anymore. So his boss thought of firing him from his job. The reason why I knew all this is because my coworker at my new job happens to be a former employee at the company Frank works for. She told me every juicy bit of information. He really got what he deserved. I am truly grateful that I was able to divorce that man.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.